Yeah. But we took care of each other. We took care of each other, and we had some values that we were pretty consistent with.
Wow. So when I think about the whatnots, and also tying it back to what you said earlier about I think you didn't literally say these terms, but I was thinking about the strength in extended families.
Yes.
And so I'm listening to these social clubs. I'm listening to, now you also articulated that some of these things are not existing like they was once existed. So I'm curious to what are your ideas about us really getting a grip on these social ills?
Okay. Well, this the point that you just made. Again, when we came up, we had Police Boys Club, we had cadets, we had Baltimore Tennis Club. We had all of these ways to express ourselves, to utilize our energy, to be supervised by adults, to feel good on our activities. In so many communities now, the kids, all they have is the corner. You know, so yes, we need to give more to the young people, give them more alternatives, adult supervision, doing things that are pleasant to kids, whether it's art and theater, whether it's athletics, whether it's service, whatever. But we need to give the kids positive things to do that are supervised by adults, so they can grow and feel safe, acknowledged, and learn about themselves and their lives. Not have to be just pushed out there into a very chaotic, dangerous, ever-changing world that can be very intimidating. And then I have to get some kind of attitude in order to pretend that I'm feeling secure. But the thing is, usually the ones with the biggest voices are the ones that are usually the most insecure.
So the phrase "the system is working," and doing exactly what it has been designed to do.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? And also, can what you speak to be accomplished in this system that is designed to do exactly what it is to do, if you share those sentiments?
Okay. So this system is not designed to take care of people. This system is designed for wealth, power, and control.
Peace, 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 and power, family. Greetings, 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 brother Dr. Dennis Assault Winkler, back at you again. I'm here with a renowned, I'm going to call it a legend, a Baba, a mentor of mine personally. I mean, I say that, I don't know if he accepts it, but I say these things, right? But nonetheless, it's an honor, he say, you know, all right. So y'all got that on film. We got that on film. So Dr. Henry Gregory, I don't have his traditional bio. It's been read all over the place. You can go and Google his name. You can find his bio, his bio that's normally read before events and things of that nature. But what I would like to do, Doc, you know, is thank you for, you know, joining me for this sit down. I've been wanting to do this for years. Let me just be honest, right? So Dr. Gregory, like, it's interesting how sometimes when people have these titles, these accomplishments, these letters before the name and behind their name, right? And to be honest, like, sometimes it can present a level of fear on other people's parts. And I have to really even recognize that, because even myself, I'm thinking about Dr. Gregory. I'm like, oh, I don't want to overburden him or underburden. Like I just, sometimes I'm like, but I've grown to know Dr. Gregory, and he's a very accessible person. He's a down to earth person, and all these type of things. A very knowledgeable person. So, with that being said, I just want to ask you, who is Dr. Henry Gregory? Who is Dr. Henry Gregory?
Well, Dr. Henry Gregory, he's the second child of William and Lily Gregory. He's the father of Giovanna, Maisha, Gillian, Grace, Gerard, Elias, James, and Jermaine. And you started off talking about being a mentor, and I am honored to be your mentor, and you use that term to describe me a lot. And to me, it's just passing on what was given to me. Because what I realize is being Dr. Henry Gregory is a product of some of the mentors I've had. Ross Ford, Fred Clifton, so many names that have nurtured, attended to me when I was younger, when I was trying to find my way, supported me, acknowledged me, that helped me to find my way. So I'm just passing on to you what was passed on to me. Like that. I'm a product of the inner city in Baltimore. If those of you who might be from this area, down by Coppin is taking all that area. But I came up in the inner city in a family that was full of mechanics and people who had a lot of technical skills and who were community people, who were into the church and had their own businesses and such. And all my brothers and my sister who had some technical skills. I didn't have those technical skills. It took me a minute to find out what I was good at, because I wasn't good at fixing cars and electronic devices and stuff like that, which was my family tradition. Two of my brothers are computer programmers, My sister runs her own business. Those kind of skills I don't have. What I was good at when I was a kid was sleeping. I could sleep anywhere, could catch a nap, and they couldn't find me, I'd be behind something, sleep. Like that. But coming up in the neighborhood, we had a neighborhood that took care of each other. So I had these guys that I became close to through playing football and baseball and eventually tennis, like that. And even the older sisters in the community, everybody took care of each other. Everybody took care of each other and supported each other. So even like 60, 70 years later, many of us are still close and we get together on a regular basis. So what happened with that is, being this quiet, shy kid who was very observant but not very outgoing, the older brothers took care of me so that I wasn't abused, I wasn't taken advantage of. You had to fight if you needed to fight, but they always made sure it was an even fight and somebody on your level, and you had backup. So I never had to get mean in order to survive. I never had to get out of myself. I never had to get out of my values. Of course, I've been through things like everybody else. But when I look at how I came up and the things I learned and was able to focus on, I have to credit the people in the neighborhood as well as my family, immediate family and extended family, my mentors, and then I'll give the academic institutions that I went to some credit. because again, it was a little bit different. I went to Morgan, and I started doing University Without Walls. So instead of staying in the classroom and listening all day, when I came up in regular school, I was always in enriched classes and whatever, because I tested well. But I was the kid who was in the back of the room, usually asleep or playing. Because if you just talk at me all the time, that was not my learning style. So when I started doing things like University Without Walls and Fielding University, where I was learning in an applied way, that really resonated with me. So instead of being in classrooms, I'm being with professionals in the field as an apprentice, working with them on a daily basis, talking with them, being coached by them, and I learned in an applied way in the field. And so a lot of things started to come together at that time. But that matched my learning style. But if I had to sit down, shut up, be still when you talk to me all the time, no, that wasn't going to work.
Really?
Yes.
The brother that I know, the Baba that I know, that seems to be the most stillest person in the rooms at times, that hasn't always been a strength of yours.
I've been working on that. I've been working on that. You know, learning to be still is a science and an art. And I put a lot of attention into doing that because I think that's critically important. Because if we just stay on the surface of our minds, then we are programmed by our external experiences so much. And there's so much coming at all of us.
Let me ask you something, Doc, because, you know, what I want to do is kind of like have a type of interview just different, right? And so, you know, people, when they hear Dr. Gregory, this peaceful giant in the community, right? And they're saying, well, hold up. Dr. Gregory in the back of the room couldn't sit still. But even more, going back to something you said earlier, you said...
No, I couldn't sit still. I didn't stay focused on it.
Focused.
Yes.
Well, the mindful Dr. Gregory,
yes,
the guy who is mindful and intentional, even teaches, what is it called, single-mindedness.
Yes.
You know, and so to be, that must be why you even realize how much more important it is, right? So he had to really learn that in a sense. He had to build that up in a sense. But also this Dr. Gregory, did you say you had to fight, but it was equal? Like it was on an equal plane for you? Well, you got in a fight before?
Yes, I've been in a few fights before. I mean, as a kid coming up in a city, you know, you have your community and you walk outside of that to go to school or whatever, and you may get some challenges like that. And so that would happen from time to time. But again, in my neighborhood, we had a real close neighborhood, and there were other guys who were more streetwise than me, and they would always back me up or make sure that it was a fair fight. Yes, and it usually turned out fairly well.
But a fight nonetheless.
Yes, but back in the day, I'm gonna say, was fighting without weapons.
Without weapons.
With hands.
With hands.
It's a one-on-one, and
you knuckled up.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, and I'm saying I'm highlighting it not to highlight any negativity, anything like that, because people in our minds sometimes we say Dr. Gregory just walked and he never even experienced a fight. I mean, this is how minds work, and sometimes people really appreciate that, seeing that some things they went through, you've also gone through.
Yeah.
Some people see me and they think, oh, where did you grow up at? I say Baltimore. They say county. I say no, city. And so and so they struggle to think that I've even been in a fight. That I've actually even went to the school. I went to Northern High School, Doc. Now during my time, like I went to Northern. Like it was the opposite of city. You know what I'm saying? So Northern, baby, back in those days, they used to be like, you know, that was a good school to go to. But I went there, they was shooting in the halls. They were doing all types of things.
Yes.
I mean, and I also grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't always an easy neighborhood to grow up in. But I'm highlighting this to say that sometimes I realized that I didn't really share those aspects of my story all the time, but people would connect and engage with me more when they could realize that you didn't just grow up and just have this silver spoon or this easy trajectory. You actually experienced some things that I've experienced.
Life is going to give us all challenges. Nobody comes here with nothing to learn. Life is a school. So there's always challenges at each stage of development. And coming up in the inner cities had a lot of challenges too. Some of them we were aware of, and some of them we weren't aware of. I mean, I was fortunate in a lot of ways. We lived in our own home. My father purchased a house and had a regular job. He had 3 jobs.
Wow.
And we had enough to eat like that. We had extended family that we connected with on both sides. You remember back in the day in the city, families used to live in communities together. And so in my mother's generation, that was happening. By our generation, people started living more separately. Okay? But that connection was invaluable. So I can remember my first jobs as a maybe 12, 13-year-old was scrubbing the lady across the street, older lady, scrubbing her kitchen and bathroom and stuff like that. And then I moved up. I started doing my uncle and aunt who lived in a whole nother neighborhood down by Longwood. I'd go down there and do that and make that. And when I came home, I made my first couple of dollars, my first $5, my father said, now give your mother some money. Huh? And that sounds strange to me, and I offered and she wouldn't take it. But I understood later what he was trying to teach me, about sharing, about honoring, and about taking care of the people who take care of you. That nurturing part. If there's anything that I think we need more of in the community, it's nurturance. 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 I'm saying somebody to say, good job. I like that you tried that. You're good at that. Some kind of reinforcement, some kind of acknowledgement, some kind of positive acknowledgement. We need more of that, because so much of the acting out is about people not feeling good about themselves. Because all of us have that voice in the back of our head that questions our adequacy, our worthiness, our competence. And the more we entertain the larger system through the medias, through consumption, through even the systems that we come up into formally, school and whatever, the more those voices are reinforced. So at some level, when we talk about mindfulness, we're talking about making a decision about what goes in your mind, because what goes in will come out. So instead of just having those old themes play in the back about, I'm not worthy, I'm inadequate, I can't do this. It's I am adequate. I choose to say, I am enough. I am capable. I am growing. I am divine. So instead of just accepting the programming of the systems that we can be more intentional, we need to be more intentional and to claim our sense of being like that. Starts with the nurturance. Somebody seeing value in you, supporting you, loving you, giving you just because you are. It starts with that. And so many young people don't get that because systems are overtaxed in school, because their parents are working or have their own addictions that they're dealing with. And when I say addictions, I'm not just talking about substance abuse. You know, I'm not just talking about alcohol. I'm not just talking about eating too much. I'm talking about talking too much. I'm talking about thinking negative. I'm talking about being critical. We're creatures of habit, and we pick up these negative habits as a way of comforting ourselves, but we pick them up at cost. And as a result, like I say, young people are not getting enough of what they need to actualize their potential.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Doc. Is there anything else you want to say about who is Dr. Gregory?
He's been around, you know. He was a street vendor when he was a kid. Athlete, tennis player. Did a little stint in the Marines. We didn't always get along, and we had some major conflicts, but they were life-changing in a real positive way. Had a passion for these higher values, certain values of kindness, values of acceptance, service, of service. It was funny. I didn't realize that I was, quote unquote, a leader. I'm in the 5th grade. I'm in class, and 4 or 5 of us in the back of the room, and the teacher says, "All right, y'all stop playing back there, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. D." And I'm totally surprised because I'm Mr. A. I'm totally surprised, you know. Then another time, I think that was the 6th grade. 5th grade, I had a teacher that we didn't get along too well. But as we were going out to Sherwood Gardens on an outing one day, and we're in the 5th grade, and her daughter, who's in the 4th grade, is going with us, and she asked me to escort her daughter. So it was totally surprised. I didn't think she liked me. So I'm saying in both cases, an adult, in this case teachers, recognized something in me that I didn't recognize in myself. And then I kept seeing how these leadership roles kept naturally occurring as I matured, like that.
So yeah.
And so my job was just to submit to what the universe had for me.
So the leadership piece. What's your thoughts? You know, and I know we didn't get to Dr. Gregory, the psychologist, Dr. Gregory, the educator as far as high education, Dr. Gregory, the individual who's created and co-created African-centered, Indigenous-centered systems or modalities of psychotherapy and so on and so forth, and still doing these things. Dr. Gregory, the author, you know, all these things. But I kind of, you know, we can get to that, we can intermingle it and all those type of things. Now, the thing that I'm thinking about is this leadership thing. And again, I said I want to ask these questions. Like, so there's argument in our community, right, that there should be no leadership, and I'm curious to or hierarchical leadership or what have you. So what are some of your thoughts about the idea of leadership?
To me, a leader is the chief servant. The leader's job is to serve the larger community. And many of us are leaders in different ways. I don't see a problem with leadership. Leadership doesn't mean I'm any better than anybody. It doesn't mean I'm hierarchically on top or anything. It just means that I have certain roles to fulfill, for which I have certain talents and consciousness. That's all. So another manifestation of it, as we're coming up in teens, I became the president of what was called the Whatnot Social Club in our community. This is teenagers and young adults. Some of them in college, some of them just got out of jail and whatever. All these brothers from around the community. And like I say, here's 60 years later, we still get together, have affairs.
How old were you about? You said the Whatnot Social Club. How old were you about when you became the president of that?
I think 17.
17, okay.
Yeah, 16 or 17. And there were guys in their 20s who had a lot more street creds than I did. But again, there was a communication, there was a trust, there was some acknowledgement. That was the role, like that. We had a professional singing group. You can
Really?
Yeah. You can still get on Spotify and pull up Whatnots and
What's nuts?
Yeah. Whatnots with WHATNAUT.
Oh.
Like astronaut. It's Whatnot.
Whatnots.
Fraternities and whatever. But we were one of the major ones around. We gave a lot of cabarets and dances and stuff. We had a singing group, dance. We would come up with our own dances and like that. And
For your return, I'll make up to you what I put you through. Darling, can't you see I'm lonely as can be? I miss you so. I just can't lose your love. 'Cause being without you, I am just no good.
And we played a lot of sports.
Wow.
Like that. But we took care of each other. We took care of each other, and we had some values that we were pretty consistent with.
Wow. So when I think about the Whatnots, and also tying it back to what you said earlier about I think you didn't literally say these terms, but I was thinking about the strength in extended families.
Yes.
And so I'm listening to these social clubs. I'm listening to, now you also articulated that some of these things are not existing like they once existed. So I'm curious to what are your ideas about us really getting a grip on these social ills?
Okay. Well, this is the point that you just made. Again, when we came up, we had Police Boys Club. We had cadets. We had Baltimore Tennis Club. We had all of these ways to express ourselves, to utilize our energy, to be supervised by adults, to feel good on our activities. In so many communities now, the kids, all they have is the corner. You know, so yes, we need to give more to the young people, give them more alternatives, adult supervision, doing things that are pleasant to kids, whether it's art and theater, whether it's athletics, whether it's service, whatever. But we need to give the kids positive things to do that are supervised by adults, so they can grow and feel safe, acknowledged, and learn about themselves and their lives. Not have to be just pushed out there into a very chaotic, dangerous, ever-changing world that can be very intimidating. And then I have to get some kind of attitude in order to pretend that I'm feeling secure. But the thing is, usually the ones with the biggest voices are the ones that are usually the most insecure.
So the phrase "the system is working," and doing exactly what it has been designed to do.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? And also, can what you speak to be accomplished in this system that is designed to do exactly what it is to do, if you share those sentiments?
Okay. So this system is not designed to take care of people. This system is designed for wealth, power, and control by the few. And it is doing that. Right now, 1/10%, 1%, in the old statistics have 62% of the wealth. Like that. So, and the wealth gap is getting bigger and bigger. The system is going to take care of itself. It is imploding. It's we've seen it all over the world, whether it was Greece, Egypt, Rome, the Mayans, whatever. We've seen it all over the world. They come to stay in power for a while, and then they implode for corruption from within. The difference this time is the whole world is connected in the system together. But it is unsustainable. Even right now, as it say, inflation is going up and everything is costing more. Well, corporate profits are at an all-time high. They're making more and more money, but the money doesn't go into taking care of people. And this is worldwide. More and more people are excluded. So the system itself is unsustainable. Whether you look at it politically, socially, financially. More and more people are figuring out that if I want to eat regularly, I need to grow some food, and not be dependent on food that comes 15 steps away and is full of all kinds of stuff that meet the needs of the producers but don't meet the needs of the people. The things that increase our tendencies to have cancers and other things because they have so many pollutants in them. So more and more people are waking up and saying, let me get back to some more indigenous ways of living. Let me get back to more basics and get grounded in something real. That doesn't mean we don't protest against the system. That doesn't mean we don't make our statements like that. But understand, we're not in control of that either. It's going to be what it's going to be. Because life is always giving us feedback. There is what is called karma. Karma is not punishment. It's a system that teaches us by giving us feedback. What you put out is what you get back. It may not come on the day that you expected or wanted, but it's coming back to you. So, for instance, if you watch some of the folks with the most of all of this money and so-called power and stuff when they're on the news and things, do they look happy?
No.
Are they agitated and irritated most of the time and just seem to be unfulfilled in some way? Because the money doesn't do that. And what you put out is what you get back. Then there's other people all around the world who are very poor by our standards, who have to go out and get food to eat daily and whatever, who seem to be living very content, because they're in touch with themselves, they're in touch with their lives, and they live in a certain standard that fulfills them. What I'm saying about the system, you have a lot of good people who may be working in the systems. Let me give you a characteristic of the system. The system is outcome driven. It's always about productivity. How many people you see, how many come in the door, how many this you do, and dot, 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 dot. It's more about quantity than quality. It's more about quality. as opposed to being process oriented. Process oriented says it's my job to do a good job, to do the best I can with what's right in front of me right now, and the rest will be what it needs to be. So I'm not being assessed, judged, evaluated by that outcome and productivity all the time, but by how I provide my service, about how I treat other human beings, not about the bottom line, not about the numbers, not about the so-called productivity. Our system doesn't take care of people. It's our job to take care of each other. It's our job to take care of ourselves. You can have all the degrees in the world, you know, in 2 or 3 different areas. That doesn't mean that you are fulfilled. That doesn't mean that you're helpful. That doesn't mean that you are an asset.
So when I'm hearing systems, what are your thoughts when people say there's going to take a system to deconstruct the system? Because I mean, I'm not sure. I'm curious to what it looks like. What it looks like to you when you say the system is going to take care of itself, and then some might say there's going to take a system to take care of the system. And, you know, I think you follow me.
Well, you know, I mean, that's the presumption that that person knows what's needed. And they may know some. What I like better is living as independent of the system as possible. You know, of having some degree of autonomy. You know, it may be as simple as having some, as folks used to do, having some dry goods in the basement. That when we have another crisis, whether it's the gas or COVID or whatever, that I can survive for a couple months at least without, you know, being dependent on the system. You know, it's about living as independently, and more people are living in communities. Living in communities. So being with like-minded people where this one can do that and this one can do that and we can do that together like that, as opposed to the way the system is set up now. The things that are essential for your life might be coming from overseas, you know, 20,000 miles away. You know, that makes no sense. That makes you thoroughly dependent on somebody's decision making that you don't know, and there's 1,000 of them in between you and your product, like that. As opposed to minimizing your needs, we call it minimalism, being as independent as possible, and moving in community with other like-minded people. As I see it, the only real difference in people is not about color. It's about consciousness. It's about consciousness. So, you know, if my consciousness is saying it's, you know, it's about the dollar, you know, it's about me being in charge or whatever, you know, then I mean, that's what I'm doing. But if I'm really trying to grow, I'm trying to be around people who have higher values, ones that match mine, that I can move with.
There's a group of people that people often say have done more harm than any other group of people on this earth. And I'm going to double it up with what we spoke about a little earlier. And some say it's going to take the level of force that they put out to bring about harmony or peace. Thoughts?
No, you're playing the same game. So, you know, you come at me violently and I respond to you violently, you were controlling me. You know, playing the same game. You know, all I'm saying is I'm right and you're wrong, but that's the same thing you're saying. So I've just bought into the game to spend my time fighting against you. It's another thing to fight for what you believe is helpful. Fighting against is one thing. That draws you into that person's, that system's mentality. Fighting for is, what do I stand for? What am I working toward? What do I see as beneficial? Like that.
Could you give some concrete examples of what fighting for would look like?
Well, I think I already have, you know.
Or tie back, yeah.
Growing your own food or learning to relax.
Learning to relax.
Learning how to go deeper inside of yourself, to access deeper levels of your consciousness, to get in touch with deeper brain waves so you can be better at decision making. So you're working on improving yourself. I can be focused out there. But what's out there is only a reflection of what's in here. So my effort is to change what's in here by deciding what goes in, what I'm going to watch, what I'm going to read, what I'm going to reinforce, you know? And that will help me to be what my vision of what I need to be okay. As opposed to fighting against, then I'm getting drawn into your stuff. You know, your standard of what's valuable, your standard of what's possible.
So I know the analogy will come up. When they're attacking you, what do?
Attacking me?
Not on a maybe on an individual, both individual and a collective group level.
Well, if they're attacking you, first of all, that's a credit. That means that you're having an impact. Like that. I mean, you just think about it. You know, so many of the great ones that we've known, whether it's Malcolm or Martin or whoever, Gandhi or they were always attacked and even taken out. And even taken out. So if everybody likes what you're doing all the time, you're not doing much. You're performing, you know, but you're not doing anything substantial. So no, some people might have problems with some of what you do. That's okay. People can make the decision. We're not here to control each other. You know, my job is to do the best I can with what I have in the moment. When I talked about my issues in the Marines, the situation got to the point where I had to give up thought about living because I just thought that I was going to be taken out. So I decided this is where I'm going to stand. This is how I'm going to be no matter what happens. That was as free as I ever felt in my life, you know? And again, when you look at those great ones like that, you could see this, you could see and hear that. When you are consistent with what you believe, and you know, everybody may not get it, that's empowering. That's enlightening. You know, that's real freedom. You know, he said, what King said, I might not be here tomorrow, and he wasn't. You know, he said, but I've been to the mountaintop. I've experienced seeing the vision. I've been consistent with it, and whatever y'all do past that, that's up to y'all. So
keeping down the line of angel advocate, so there's never a time to defend, ward off, fight back. With let's say in a violent manner.
I didn't say that.
But you know, that's why I'm coming.
I am hoping to get off the planet without ever having to be violent again. I don't think that's the way. Am I that strong yet? I aspire, and it's been good. It's been good, you know, more recently. My late wife was not into. She was ahimsa. Ahimsa is nonviolence.
Okay.
So in the spring, when the mice came in the house, we had to catch the mice and take them out in the woods and let them go. Or you'll see little guns around here where when the bugs come in, you can just shoot them and suck them in and take them outside and like that. And that was the format. Nothing was killed, and we just take it out and whatever.
Yes, sir.
Not quite as evolved as she is. If you come in my house, I might take you out. You know?
Look, y'all, hold up. I had to ask the question because I knew it was going to be a mystery, and I don't want 20 years or 50 years from now and I didn't ask Dr. Gregory this question. But go ahead, Doc, keep on.
Yeah, and I'm getting better. I'm trying to catch up to my wife, but you know, in the meantime, you know, if you stay out of, if you don't come in my space with them, I'm not coming to get you like that. But you know, at the same time, it is my duty to protect my family and you know, like that, friends.
All right. Wow. Okay. So now, Doc, let's get back a little clinical. You know, we was going social, like, okay. And I did, and we might go back clinical. I mean, social again.
Okay.
But you know, so now clinical, because I see things on this individual, familial, communal, societal type of levels, right? Let's say positive psychology, or let's say, what's some of your frameworks, Doc?
Enriched structural family therapy, NTU Psychotherapy, yeah, motivational interviewing, emotional family work.
Yeah, and a lot of those can kind of attributes of what people might say is positive psychology, right?
Yes.
And when you think about this idea of toxic positivity, you've heard of this before?
I may have.
So the thing is where people tend to, and you know, you can correct me. So I mean, I fight with people. Yeah, I fight with them about this. You know, this idea of, not really fight, but this idea that people believe that strength-based means that you never actually point out anything or corrective things. You only highlight the good or the positive or the quote or the strengths or what have you, and not look at anything or become more unrealistic and idealistic in your approach to life.
No.
Thoughts?
Okay. So our system is pathologically oriented. You only get paid for services if you tell what's wrong with people, how they don't fit into the box. Comparisons, which being positive, looking for person's strengths, looking for their uniqueness, trying to support their sense of being, their uniqueness in the world, rather than judging them and assessing them according to other people, but looking to say, okay, your learning style is this, and you're good at this, and you bring this to the table. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Also, though, you go to the other place. It says, so this has happened to you, and you've done this, and you're thinking that. What are the lessons in that? So it's not what's the negativity. It's about what are the lessons. What did you learn from that? What do you think that means? What do you think that means? So it's not that you don't look at the other side, but that doesn't become the focus. Because I'm not trying to fit you into the box. I'm not trying to judge you by how I think you should be and all that, make you what I want you to be. No. I'm trying to help you be clear about what it is you bring to the table, and then help you say, how does this manifest when it's working for you, and how does it manifest when it's not? How would you like it to be? And then we can unpack some more of that. So it's looking at the other side, but it's how you do it. It's how you do it. Like I said, you can go to school, you can learn all these different methodologies and not be very people-oriented. The thing that has been shown over and over again, even through the research, that is most curative is empathy. When we can go into somebody's world, and that takes some courage, to come out of your world and go into somebody else's world and help them to look at that and just show them what you appreciate in that and what you see is working and like that. That's reinforcing for a person. Because we all get so much negative reinforcement when somebody can show you, say, oh, but you're good at this. You did that, you know. You say, no, you're not. Rather than a drug dealer, you were a street vendor. You know, you knew how to market products and to do stock and warehouse and all of those kind of things. So you can look at the negative side, or you can look at the positive side, like that.
But also acknowledge that you were a street vendor.
Yeah.
Also acknowledge that how is that working for you, right?
Yes, yes.
So now I'm hearing this empathy because I've had so many interactions with, like, empathy is a very scary thing, I've realized, for us. And, you know, I literally directly just say it now. Like, empathy is curative. I literally was at a workshop the other day, and I know it's very hard for us to hear this at times because we believe, due to our history many times, that if I empathize for someone, that means that I now leave myself vulnerable in a way that I can't protect myself.
Well, real growth, real actualization requires vulnerability. It's just an illusion. We're moving out of fear when we keep those walls up and those protective barriers and like that. At some level, it's about being vulnerable, opening the heart. Yes, you've been hurt. Yes, there are things that out there that can be threatening and scary. But you're going to be in a better shape to deal with whatever if you open your heart. Because when you close your heart, and when I'm saying close your heart, I'm talking about anxiety, I'm talking about fear, I'm talking about anger, I'm talking about the attitude that I know, all of that. I'm talking about closing the heart. When you close your heart to the external things, part of what you do too is you close your heart off to yourself. My concern is when I see people allowing their anger at the system or other people and stuff to be so pronounced, that's a reflection of the anger that they hold at themselves inside. That they're not being accepting and forgiving of themselves enough so that they can be vulnerable, be open, and flow with life. It's at some level an effort to protect oneself.
So, strength base. So I had a little talk in my book discussion with my dear brother. And so me, I look at, even with my students, I look at strength base is a bit different than what many people, because many times people, again, believe that strength base means that if I have to confront an issue, that's now no longer being strength based. If I have to, if a person is confronting maybe a deficit, even like there might be, for example, there's a brother in the community who points out maybe the system that you're using may not be working for you, and then now they're saying, where is that strength base? So I flip it and say, well, there's strength in what he's saying and what he's doing. He's the person who literally can alertives of landmines. You know, now, if we're really talking about a strength-based perspective, that's just, he has a strength that I know I don't really, truly, personally, I don't have that strength. Like me, I'm like a person where I hang with the anxious folk, because I'm not literally like anxious about most things. And I realize that there's strength in people who can point out the potential pitfalls. Because like me, I'll be in class like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm not looking at the syllabi, I'm not looking at anything, you know. But I realize those who are highly, it might not be working for them all the time. But what I'm saying is, being around them, they can make me alert of some things that's coming down the road. So, what's your thoughts about that?
It's how you do it. Like I said, each one of us comes to do different things. And there's an upside to the way you can do it, and there's a downside, you know. And our job is, if when we're talking to somebody, is to help them to look at the up and down side so they can make an informed decision about what's the best way to do it. About what's working for them and what needs to be improved.
Say that again.
Our job is to help people get clear about what's the cost of what they're doing. Everything, you can do anything you want on this planet,
Okay.
but everything's cost. So our job is to help them be clear about the cost so they can make an informed decision about how they want to move forward. So they can go forward with more intentionality. Because so much of what we do is really about the way we are programmed. And we act that out and we defend that because that's what we're used to doing. But when somebody can help you to unpack that and look and say, oh, you seem to, part of you seems to really like that, and part of you seems to have some inhibitions about it, and help them to just look at both sides, then they can make their own assessment and say, yeah, I want to do more of this and less of that. That's living intentional. To me, that is one of the main needs of the day. We all have to be more intentional. The good news is when we make decisions, either de facto or intentionally, life is going to give us feedback. Life is going to give us feedback whether something is working or it's not working or it needs more nuance in order to be applicable, like that. So it's an ongoing process, and it's a parallel process of working with people too. You can't help people change if you're not willing to change also. If you're not willing to assess, reevaluate, and shift gears from time to time. Because what we bring to the party is not our models. The models, like I said, they help us keep us focused and keep us out of the way. But what we really bring to the party is our energy. Because ultimately, we are all energy. And when I'm in the negative place, the energy's down here. When I'm in a positive place, it's somewhere else. So if I'm working with you empathetically and to really care about you and really trying to see things from your point of view and be there for you, then that's going to bring one energy. If I've already made up my mind that something that you're doing is wrong or you need to do this or whatever, that's going to bring another energy to the party.
So yeah, you've been providing psychotherapeutic services for a long time, right?
In a minute.
Yeah. So in that, almost sure that you've experienced a point where you had, well, I'm not saying you had to, where there was some level of confrontation that had to take place. And, or you had, like you brought light to something that caused a level of dissonance in the other person, right? And in that, many times, your messenger can become the enemy in a sense sometimes. And I see that maybe, let's say, on the clinical level, but also on social levels, especially when we're talking about, and I'm not always the person. I'm just going to say there's some beliefs, as Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about, or some people call collective delusions, that take place, that sometimes it takes a level of dropping something so that people can see things that they really don't want to see, but this is what's keeping them stuck, and it doesn't feel good. So many times the person or the people or what have you at that point see you as the enemy because they have somehow disturbed your fantasy.
Mm-hmm. So, part of the work sometimes is just planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to get a person to think, to assess, to be about. You're just planting seeds. My wife used to use the term, not confrontation, it's carefrontation.
Yeah.
Carefrontation. You're reading the person, you're connected with them, and you can see if they're overwhelmed or really having a negative reaction, and you might just say this is hard for you to listen to. It seems like this is really disturbing you, what we're talking about. I mean, just acknowledging where one of the things that facilitates so much acting out in society, people not feeling seen and heard. So I don't feel seen and heard, so I go out and do something dramatic that's going to take me out and other people out too, just because I want people to notice me. So when you give somebody your attention, when you are letting them know that I hear you, you're saying this, or you see things this way, or you'd like to do that. You're not saying you approve of it, you're not saying it's right, you're saying I hear you, I understand you, and I'm with you. That doesn't mean it's not more in a conversation, but we all have the need to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. And that's where it starts at. And that's the empathy. That's when you go into the other person's world and tell them what your understanding is of what they're expressing. Because so often they're not clear, and you're just holding up a mirror and giving them some feedback. And you know what happens when we go to the mirror, look in the mirror and say, oh, and start doing stuff, So our job is just to hold up a mirror so that person can see themselves from another angle and then make an informed decision about how they'd like to address the issue.
Yeah, and that right there, I find for me to be a strength, I have to actually sometimes I have to be intentional about carefronting, and that's how was learned in my program as well. Using carefrontation, right? And I'm always going to do it probably in a caring way, but knowing when to dial it back, right?
Yeah.
Because I think part of being a business person and myself, and also I've learned to be assertive, like in many manners. I'm not necessarily the most assertive, aggressive person in general, but I do find strength in being more assertive at times, and also I find pleasure in it to some degree. But I find that many of us struggle, and I mean, especially I'm gonna just be honest, especially at the institutions I teach at, where they're majority white. They can do all the
mechanical stuff.
The mechanical stuff, and yes, and then what happens is they cannot confront. They don't like any conflict, and they believe that you're but that's the most thing that they struggle with. But also, what I'm saying is, so many clients have come to me, so many people have come to me. I'm talking about as a therapist. And what they tell me they appreciate about me most, now of course there's some that they went home and probably never came back. But for the majority, they stay because they say, I actually confront them or carefront them, or I literally was. That takes a level of I'm saying work on yourself to be able to deal with someone not being comfortable with you.
Can't take anybody any further than you are. So you have to be continually working on yourself. You know? And again, that helps create that authenticity. You're not just a mechanic. You can like I said, you can go through school, you can get all kinds of degrees and certifications and stuff just by doing it mechanically and passing tests, but that's not going to help you deal with people. You know, it's about you being real, being present, and dealing with your stuff. Because we all got stuff that we bring to the party, and like that. So it's not always about the other person. You got to really be present, and that means you're working on your stuff. And if you're on this planet, we're just gonna presume that you got something to work on.
I mean, I'm not sure if you've been listening to the social media feeds. I mean, I don't really see them myself, but it's so pervasive, even in the counseling room, in our social circles. This thing about male-female relationships, relationships in general, but let's say romantic relationships. People are really, really struggling. Many people, and I'm just wondering, you know, what are some of your thoughts about that, and what's some of the things you think that we can do to kind of, and you can frame it even as collective relationships, however you want to do it. What are some of the things, holistically, even what we spoke about all today, but, and you can talk on male-female relationships as well, but what do we need to do? What can we do to kind of mend some of these issues that we see in our relationships?
Okay. Well, I'm actually glad you brought that up. I found myself doing a lot of couples work, and it's reflecting the changing times. We're in a time of great transition, if not transformation, on this planet. And one of the ways it's manifesting itself is in relationships. And one of the ways I see it, we've lived in a patriarchal society for 2,000 years now. And to some extent, it's been a major ingredient of developing the systems that we have. And I say patriarchal, I'm talking about, you know, competition, control, power, those kind of things. It seems to me that our moving forward is going to be dependent a lot on our allowing our divine feminine to have more charge, which is more about, again, nurturance, collaboration, cooperation, communication, like that. I mean, in every society, the women have always been the foundation. Men, we go out and, you know, do the protection, grab the food, you know, make the money, whatever. But the women were built the foundation for the community. We have to allow more of that into our larger systems. To me, move more about feminine self. Part of what's even happening in relationships, I mean, some of that's being acted out, but not just by the men. In many situations, the women have become more masculinely oriented, because all of us have male and female in all of us. So in many cases, they become, in order to survive, in this, like, they become more masculine. It seems to me, for us to get better, we all have to learn to trust and lead with more of our feminine energy in order to communicate, to connect, to collaborate, and to grow together, like that. As you were talking earlier, one of the main skills of connecting, of collaborating, of coordinating is the listening. Learning how to listen to each other, to deeply listen to what's said, to what's not said, to meaning. The new research, the old research says only about, I had to look this up last weekend when I was away doing a training, and I made the statement that the research says that only 15% of communication is verbal. But the new research says no, it's not 15%. It's 7%. It's 7%. So it's not just the words. It's the eyes, it's the posture, it's the tone, it's all of that. Because you can say a word, you can say love to a room of 20 people, and it means something different to everybody in the room, depending on their experience. So learning how to really listen and listen deep to get people's meaning is a foundation for connection, for communication, for us collaborating and working together. And we have to do that. What has become the standard, and truthfully, I'm hearing you say that what has become the standard is the clap back all the time. One person says something and somebody says the opposite, and you do like that. Rather than, let me see if I understand what you say. You're saying dot, 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 and then add your piece on like that. It's that right or wrong, black, white, dichotomous thinking that is infecting so much of our relationships. And then add one more piece to that, and that's the lack of emotional competence. Our not being able to recognize and manage our emotions. So you trying to say what you're trying to say, and rather than listen to you and try to understand it, I'm just trying to put my point in. Then you start getting emotionally aroused, and I start getting emotionally aroused because neither one of us is attending to our emotions. And next thing we're doing that, and whatever else might come after that.
Yeah, you got me thinking about some community stuff that I'm trying to. I mean, some of the things. Whew.
It happens in community. It happens in power. If you watch television and watch the news and stuff, people don't talk with each other. They talk at each other all the time. Even the interviewers, they don't give any feedback or acknowledgement. They just go on to the next thing. But it plays out in all of our relationships because when we're doing that, we're competing.
Absolutely.
Rather than listening and collaborating.
Yeah, you got me thinking. I'm over here laughing because, as I told you earlier, I was accused of being the good listening doctor and the Prince of Peace.
Right. You should get 1,000 years for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is funny. It's like a little shot, but I thought it was so funny, right? And guess what? It's also an honor to me.
Yes,
Although it's supposed to be a slight, but you the good listening doctor, Doc. That's what he told me, right? Like, you the Prince of Peace. Well, I mean, I must be doing something right, because literally, I'm thinking like, well, hold up. I feel like I'm in the mess, but y'all think I'm trying to make the peace. So look, that's good. I mean, I'm still in there somewhere like I want to be. But I said that was the last question. But it's something you said on an interview, and I gotta ask you this question. And you might not interview. It was a training that you came to the National Association of Black Counselors, and we talked about diversity issues. We talked about, if I could be clear, and we were talking about like certain groups of people who literally fight for causes, like some of the issues that's going on right now is like women fighting for their rights, African Americans of course fighting for their rights, and they kind of been some of the leaders in some great ways, right? But then also the LGBTQ plus community fighting for their rights. And you said and there's some truth in these things. There's lots of truth, and people need to fight for these things. But you said, like, in America, like anything, we tend to take them overboard. And I just was curious to find out more about, like, what are you saying here? Like there's like, we tend to take these things a bit overboard.
I believe everybody should have rights to be who they are, to find their way to actualize their potential. Part of my concern, and this kind of came up in the training I did last weekend, was the LGBTQ Q community, and somebody added some more letters in the front of that. The extreme that I think it's gone to in a lot of ways. Like I said, I will call you whatever you want me to call you. But I am 75 years old. My memory's not the best. And so if you remind me, I will call you what you want me to call you. But I'm not going to accept that as my assignment to remember what you want to be called. And I believe there are people who fit all up and down the spectrum when we talk about genders and sexuality like that. I also think that in our society now, we are in many ways promoting alternate gender roles for children. When you talk about giving children the hormones before their brains aren't finished developing, or you talk about having surgeries before people are fully grown, that to me is an extreme. And at the same time, the incidence of depression and anxiety is at the highest in those communities. Suicide, and folks say, "Oh, that's because they're not accepted in society." Well, there may be other reasons too. The reasons being, when you try to find an external solution for an internal dilemma, and you find out after you've done all that stuff and you still feel the same way, then that can be very depressing for a person. So I think we're overlooking some, and we're promoting these things. I think there should be, fairness, acceptance, and whatever you want to call yourself, or however you want to dress, fine. But we're promoting so much of that in the society, particularly for the young folks that I have questions about whether that's healthy or not. When we grow up as children, we're naturally more comfortable with the same sex because it takes a little bit of anxiety to go out and start communicating with them. That's natural. That doesn't mean that somebody has decided, somebody needs to have a sex change. Oh, I'm just saying, again, my perception is we're overdoing that. Like that. That we are promoting gender fluidity and nonconformity in our young people, as opposed to just supporting them and growing, and then allowing them to make decisions as they age. Like I said, you don't even get a full brain until you're about in your mid-20s. So when you talk about people getting kids in puberty and adolescence and doing all of these dramatic external processes, I think that's a setup. And my experience, and I started working in doing work in some of those communities back in the mid-'80s, doing HIV work. If you don't do your internal work, it doesn't matter what kind of surgeries you get or how many hormones you have. I certainly know some people who are trans who seem very solid and help in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I think we're overdoing it.
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I think the way that you articulated that, a lot of people could benefit from it. And so in closing, is there anything that you would like to share that you haven't shared due to my framing, or or some closing words?
Well, just encourage everyone to work on having some still time so that you can, let's say, go deeper in your own consciousness, get and listen to the messages that come from the universe that bring guidance, that bring support, so you can actualize who you are. Again, if we stay on the surface of our minds, what do we say? We receive somewhere between 4,000 and 10,000 commercials a day. So we got all these sources programming us, overstimulating us, trying to keep us on their agendas. But we all, in order to be okay at some level, we need some still time every day where we are going inside ourselves, grounding ourselves, connecting with our universe, connecting with our essence. And, you know, like anything else, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. But it's very necessary. There are forces out there who would rather keep all of us externally oriented for consumerist goals. But we all need to learn how to go inside and take care of ourselves in order to be the best versions of ourselves, like that. So
I appreciate your time, Dr. Gregory. I do really appreciate this interview, which has been and will be beneficial to me, if no one else, but I know it will be beneficial to other people. Some of the questions you've answered today are my personal questions, right? And it's not that I haven't called you in the past and kind of asked you to give me more information about this, but I really appreciate the time to really, and your openness to say, I say, Doc, I want to ask some questions, and they're going to be, I kind of want to play the angel's advocate and all those different things, and you being open to that. And I really appreciate that, and I think it's a model for us. If you want to, you can share how people can get in contact with you.
okay, let's see. Well, first of all, I have a podcast that's on Simplecast, Spotify, Facebook. It's mind training in homotherapy. Homotherapy. Homa is HOMA therapy. Email address is hankgreg, HANKGREG 49@gmail.com. And if you want to just give me a call, my office number is 410-521-5818. So blessings to everyone. Take care of yourselves. Remember, you are your strongest asset. And keep growing, keep learning, keep being you.
Ashe. Dr. Henry Gregory, y'all. I told y'all. He said, he laughed when I said a legend, but a living legend. Peace and power.
Peace.
proud, you're gonna get your mind back. When you claim your Africanness, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud, black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. Become a part of it. Embrace it. 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 When you claim your Africanness, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you.